Hi! How we doing, Boomerites? It's good to see you again. Hope you guys had a good Halloween. I certainly did. Hope you guys liked my outfit, too. Some of you guys were confused about it. There were a couple of you in the live stream that were pretty upset about it. Kind of confusing, because I was portraying a character called The Rock, who is an eyebrow-raising, jabroni-beaten, pie-eating son of a gun. And remember, folks, in that live stream, don't take me seriously. I'm just being a goof. And, yeah, there we are. But anyway, I pulled this suggestion right off of the video suggestions box on the Discord, the new Discord set up by Billy Reynolds. So if you have Discord and you would like to join the Muppet Army, because that's what it's called, there's a link in the description below, and you guys can check it out. So be sure to check that out, because it's so cool. I can just look in the video suggestion box and scroll through things and be like, hey, that looks interesting. And that's where we are right now. This one is from Nalegia. Got over 1 million subscribers. I might have to subscribe because I love channels like these where they explain historical stuff. But this one is called How Was England Formed? Which, even though I like to think I'm more adept at the knowledge of history than others, this might be, this is probably going to be brand new to me. So let's get into it. Let's see how it is. And I'm already going to subscribe to Nalegia. I don't know how to say it, but I apologize, but I'm subscribing to you guys right now. So there we go. All right, how is England formed? Let's check it out, because I'm curious. All right, guys, here we go.
The existence of England is one that is often taken for granted and looked at far too scarcely. This may be due to the overshadowing history of the development of Great Britain and the United Kingdom. But nonetheless, in order for these unions to be formed, England had to already exist, and it actually has since 927 AD. So how was England created? Who claimed the land before the English, and how did it become the nation that we know today?
Ooh, that's cool. That clock on the right.
As the Roman Empire began to fade from the British Isles, the area of modern-day England started to see a wave of migration from Anglo-Saxon Germanic tribes. According to some historians, after the Romans left, the native Britons came under attack from the nearby Picts and Scots, and subsequently welcomed some of these Anglo-Saxons in hopes that they would push out the other invaders. The Germanic peoples were successful in expelling both the Scots and Picts, but they then turned on the native Britons.
I've heard of the Picts because they gave the Romans a lot of trouble. I believe they're the ones that caused the Romans to build Hadrian's Wall up in the north to keep them the hell out. So they must have been pretty badass if the Romans will build a frickin' wall to keep you out of there, huh? At least I would think so.
And established their own the other invaders. The Germanic peoples were successful in expelling both the Scots and Picts, but they then turned on the native Britons and established their own authority by the start of the 7th century. The new Anglo-Saxon rulers then installed the kingdoms of Essex, Kent, Sussex, Mercia, East Anglia, Northumbria, and Wessex on the British mainland.
Wow. Okay, so I've heard of almost all of those except for Mercia and East Anglia. Essex, Kent, Northumbria in particular. I actually knew a little bit about them. But, yeah, Mercia and East Anglia are the two that I have not heard before, so that's fresh for me.
There are minimal records of what happened over the next few centuries throughout these kingdoms, but we do know that it wouldn't be long before the Anglo-Saxons would face invaders of their own. In 793, a Viking army landed at the Lindisfarne Monastery and raided the sacred building. Their violence and disrespect stunned the Anglo-Saxons, who were unprepared for what these
Violence and
Vikings had in
disrespect.
store.
Those are the
By the
Vikings
end
for
of
you.
870, East Anglia fell to the Danish invaders, and Mercia was lost only 4 years later. As the Vikings seized Northumbria next in 875, Wessex was the only remaining major kingdom under Anglo-Saxon authority. When the current King of Wessex, Ethelred, died, his younger brother Alfred was left to protect his kingdom's independence. At first, he did so by paying off the Viking aggressors, until he was eventually prepared to lead an army against them. This culminated in the Battle of Edington, which left the Danes utterly routed and ended their attempts to capture Wessex.
Nice. I love videos like these, by the way. I wish that I had some kind of app or technology that would allow me to make videos like this. I don't know how these guys do it. I've asked around. I asked around vociferously months ago to see if I could talk to people about how they would create videos like this. Haven't gotten any good responses though. I downloaded a couple things and tried some things, but I couldn't quite figure out what I was doing. So if anybody knows an easy way, because it doesn't have to be this good. I mean, this is quality right here. It doesn't have to be this good though. But the if I could do anything like, you know, one of my favorite channels is Oversimplified. I love those videos. They only do like 2 or 3 a year or something like that, but it's just basically, you know, stick figures with big heads in a cartoon, but he makes the videos very entertaining. But if I could figure out a way to do something like that, or something like this, it would be a real treat, because I would love to do history videos like this.
Power vacuum in Mercia around the same time resulted in King Alfred also gaining control of the kingdom, and instead of establishing a new monarch, he placed an alderman in charge. This nobleman would answer to King Alfred himself, and kept the King of Wessex as the ultimate authority throughout both regions, although a part of Mercia would be ceded to the Vikings. After the death of the King of Wessex and the contemporary leader of Mercia in 911, Edward the Elder and Ethelfled each became their respective successors. Together,
I've not heard of any of these guys. I think once William the Conqueror comes along, that's when I'm familiar with a lot of British monarchs and some of their top advisors. That's when I start recognizing names. But this is, I guess this is a Dark Age period. But a lot of this is very new to me, so this is very interesting. What he said, though, about negotiating with the Vikings, I imagine that would be very difficult, because they, you know, they said they're violent and disrespectful, which is, you know, what that's putting it mildly about what the Vikings were like. But I would imagine those negotiations would be very difficult with a group of people that are that notorious. But anyway.
these new rulers began to increase the pressure that had already been put on the neighboring Danelaw. In 917, Ethelfled expanded her lands to the north, and Edward was able to incorporate all of East Anglia into his kingdom.
Okay, so
As
they're pushing back.
pushed forward with the expansion, she managed to extend Mercian territory all the way up to York, where the locals decided it would be best to simply pledge loyalty to her as a...
Took a woman to do it. How about that? I will say, in the history of particularly England, there are a lot of badass women that show up in history. I mean, some of your most famous monarchs have been women and have been considered great monarchs. So, props to you guys for that. You guys are really create some badass women over there, I must say.
Opposed to fighting. Although Ethelfred shortly died, her daughter, Elfwin, was supposed to take her place and continue on the current course. Unexpectedly, though, the Mercian people quickly ousted their new leader and accidentally created the perfect opportunity for King Edward from Wessex to seize all of Mercia not long
Oh, I
after.
guess they didn't like Elfwin
In
very
918,
much.
the Anglo-Saxons continued farther into Danelaw territory and slowly gained more and more land for themselves. By the time of Edward's death in 924, the newly acquired neighbors of the Anglo-Saxons had all pledged allegiance to the king. This put the Anglo-Saxons in a confident position as Edward's son, Aethelstan, took over the kingdom. Around this time, Etheltan's sister would marry the local Viking ruler Sihtric, who still controlled Northumbria. Aethelstan marched on and was finally able to bring the kingdom of York under his crown as his sister's husband passed away. This left Northumbria up for grabs, and the king swiftly consolidated it as part of his kingdom. This is generally the time that most historians view the Kingdom of England as having been created. But the situation...
That's interesting. Does England go all the way up there? I think it's like, at least the very top bit is part of Scotland today. I could be wrong about that. I'm not as familiar with the British Isles geography as I am my own here in the States, but it looks like the very top of it is creeping into modern-day Scotland a little bit. Let me know about that in the comments. It looks like the top's in Scotland, but I could be wrong, and you guys love to correct me, so let me know about that.
Was not exactly so simple. Aethelstan was not done trying to expand his kingdom however he could, and although he did term himself the King of the English at this point, it was still not quite what we know as England today. Aethelstan decided to give an invasion of Scotland a chance to see if he could reach his authority even further. The Kingdom of Scotland, or as it was known at the time, Alba, was at a disadvantage against the English.
Alba?
And therefore appeals could reach his authority even...
Just a quick note though, notice Wales stands alone. They're like that, nobody's coming in here and messing with us. So shout out to Wales. But what was this term for Scotland that I've never heard of before?
Further, the Kingdom of Scotland, or as
Alba.
it was known at the time, Alba, was at a disadvantage.
It says, is it Alba or Alba? Because in the closed captions here it says Alba, but the guy said Alba. So please somebody confirm that for me too.
The English, and therefore appeals to the other remaining sovereign states for assistance. This prompted an alliance between Constantine II, King of Alba, Olaf Guthrason, King of Dublin, and Owain, King of Strathclyde. With King Olaf at the helm, the alliance faced the English at the spectacular Battle of Brunanburh. Though it is unknown exactly where this battle took place, it is certain that the alliance was severely crushed by the English invaders. The casualties on both sides was disastrously high, but Aethelstan and the English were without a doubt the victors. It's believed by many that this clash may have truly solidified the unity of England and stirred up a new sense of nationalism and pride amongst the English people.
Certainly appears that way.
It didn't result in the incorporation of Alba nor Strathclyde into the Kingdom of England, as both stayed independent. England, on the other hand, would have to prove its ability to do so. The Vikings, though temporarily defeated, would return to the young kingdom at the end of the 10th century. After Ethelstan's death in 939, the previously defeated King of Dublin, who was a Viking ruler, took immediate advantage of England's temporary instability. While King Ethelstan's
Vikings
brother
always come
Edmund
back.
took over the English realm, King Olaf swooped in to reconquer some of the lands that had once been in Viking hands. York was quickly captured, and a large chunk of what used to be Northumbria and Mercia was also taken, as he strong-armed the English into accepting this annexation. Ironically, when Olaf died in 941 and his cousin, who shared the same name, was transitioning to the throne as his successor, Edmund of England jumped on the chance to pay the Vikings back for the invasion. The following year, the middle chunk of annexed land was retaken by the English, and in only 2 more years, the Vikings were entirely pushed out of Northumbria. This essentially reunited England, since the territory was now all under Edmund's control. As ambitious as his ancestors, Edmund next invaded Strathclyde, but only took some of its southern territories by the end of the incursion. The rest was given to King Malcolm I of Scotland, as opposed to joining England.
Now here we go. Now is this the modern border? Because if it was, then I was wrong about my previous question. Thinking the very tippy top of England was encroaching into modern day Scottish territory. So maybe this is the modern day border. I mean, this is over 1,000 years ago, so probably not. But it's certainly looking more like the modern day borders right now.
Appeared as though the Kingdom of England had established some stability. But this was once more short-lived. Edmund was mysteriously murdered in 946, which left his younger brother, Edred, as King of England. The next year, Eric Bloodaxe from Norway attacked.
More Vikings.
The recently reincorporated Northumbria.
What a name, Eric Bloodaxe. Just, if you have a name like Eric Bloodaxe, you better be damn good at leading your army into battle, that's for sure.
Which prompted almost a decade of conflicts over who throughout the Isles would lead Northumbria. Eventually, the English king was able to once again and permanently reclaim the territory on behalf of England. His death soon ended his reign after this victory, and his young nephew Edwig temporarily succeeded him, but was quickly deposed in favor of his brother Edgar. However, this was only a partial deposition, which meant that Edwig would still hold a small section of the kingdom as a co-ruler. When Edwig died only 2 years after this decision, Edgar simply took over the whole of England. Under the reign of King Edgar, known as Edgar the Peaceful, the true foundations of the English kingdom could finally be established. Many reforms were...
Oh, excuse me. Sorry, guys. I hope that doesn't come back. That was a bad one. It seems like Edgar is the first king that ruled under a peaceful time period, perhaps? Maybe? He would be the first one in this video, that's for sure.
Were passed, and a vast number of the systems and laws that had existed in the Dane law were actually upheld in hopes of avoiding any displeasure from the Danish portion of the population. Peace, unity, and order were the pillars of Edgar's nearly 2-decade-long reign.
2 decades,
and his
all right.
helps to fully solidify the unity of the young Kingdom of England. The ultimate foundation of England was a long and shaky process. From the initial immigration of the Anglo-Saxons into the region to the establishment of their first kingdoms, extending into the invasion and rule of the Vikings, it wasn't until the Anglo-Saxons began to seize territory from the Danelaw that an inkling of modern-day England could be seen. After a series of conquering, being conquered, reconquering, and so on, the Anglo-Saxons eventually united the existing kingdoms throughout England. From there, it was merely a matter of establishing solid borders, maintaining their captured territory in order to keep their kingdom physically solid, and eventually, under the rule of Edgar the Peaceful, building the foundational laws and structures of what we know now as the Kingdom or Nation of England.
How about that? That was a really good video. I really enjoyed that. That's one of my favorite ones I've done in a long time. So thank you. Once again, that was Geo. Geo, I forgot to give you credit last time for the Tyson Fury video, I think it was, that you did. And I did a reaction to it last week with Captain Quintano. So Geo, thank you very much for the suggestion. That was a really good one. Now, I would like to point out that Wales has stayed independent through all of this. I know down the road they probably won't. But shout out to Wales for looking at all this chaos in the surrounding lands and going, don't you dare bring that crap over here. You guys put your foot, it seems like it didn't get mentioned in the video, but I would imagine you guys put your foot down and said, not up in here. Not up in here. So shout out to Wales for being badasses. But yeah, let me know if that's the modern day border between Scotland and England. I'm curious as to if that's the actual border today. I always thought Scotland came a little bit more south, but you know, it's not my land, so I'm not too familiar with it. But Yeah, the Viking stuff was very interesting. I loved all the names because that's a period of history that even for someone like me who's into history, I'm not very fond of like the Dark Age stuff. Once they get more into like the medieval era, is when I really start knowing stuff. Not a whole lot. I'm not a professional historian or anything by any means, but that's when I start recognizing names and events and things like that. So this was a very educational video for me, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, like once the period from when the Roman Empire kind of disintegrates, all the way to, you know, like when William the Conqueror shows up. That's the, 700 or 800 years or so, or whatever it is, period of history where I'm very hazy. I don't know a lot. So this was a very good video. Thank you once again, Geo. Can't tell you enough how much I enjoyed this one. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it too. Hop over to Nalegia and throw them a subscription. You'll probably learn something. I certainly did. So I'm going to subscribe to them and watch some more videos that they got on my own time. How about that? Anyway, I hope you enjoyed what you saw. Like, subscribe, do whatever you guys want. And I'll see you for more videos. By the way, if you like the kind of sidestepping from the comedy stuff and like these types of videos, then let me know in the comments, because I enjoy doing these kind of videos pretty much just as much as I do the comedy bits. It's a pleasure and a privilege. It really is. Anyway, you guys have a lovely day. Stay safe out there, and we'll see you in the next time. Peace out.